So, a big question then, because we're all teachers, how do you engage and activate teachers in their learning?
We are all very aware of the different challenges that we've gone through the last 2.5 years. And everyone is really busy. There's a lot going on. People are tired, people are fatigued. And so the first thing really is just to be empathetic. When you have an academic coming before you, you need to put yourself in that person's shoes and realize that, I'm just not just this shell of a person. There's just so much more about me. And it's really just listening to them, who they are, where they come from. People need that platform to be heard. And only when you open up in that way and you're compassionate, do they feel they can trust you to actually let you lead them on this journey of learning or whatever else you want to do. So really, that's always the first great step, just trying to build that rapport as well. They need to be able to trust you. And so I'm coming to answering your question. So the first thing is really just to come at it with empathy. Really just know that, there's a lot going on. So if you're going to take them on a journey, let me just listen to you, give them that platform to hear. The next thing for me is really, I'm an advocate for leading by example. It's not just telling you, talking the talk, but walking the walk as well, but really showing you tangible, evidence-based examples of how to do it in the real world. And that might not necessarily be me as a professional knowing exactly what's happening within your field, but connecting you with others who are. Like, I really do believe in peer-to-peer kind of mentorship and linking those up. And we do have champions that we call within the institution that we try to link up with our staff members and say, this person is doing amazing work within their field. It might not be exactly like what you're doing in your discipline, but how can we learn from them and sort of glean from that and apply some of those strategies? So showing them tangible ways of doing that. We do most of our support via our professional learning workshops, so lots of workshops. And in those workshops, it's not just a talk fest. It's not just me talking to you. And I know, Liisa, you've actually attended some of our workshops. We really try to make them engaging, interactive. We want to find out what it is that you want to get out of those workshops and ensure that we incorporate that as part of our workshop so that you actually feed into it. And when we develop our workshops, we ensure that there is a component where you're actually doing something. Like there's an artifact you have to actually complete where you're already thinking about the planning and how you can apply the strategies that we discuss as part of the workshop into your own space, your own class as well. So really we try to ensure that it's engaging. We're actually talking to some of the challenges that you are experiencing to make sure that it's something that you can actually apply within your environment. But at the same time, I'm almost like, what? Not everything we share with you is going to work for your discipline. We want to hear from you. Does it work or does it not?
Yes.
And feed that back to us and tell us, what, this is not working for me, Let's try something else. It's all right to fail. I mean, it's just about trying, going out there and having a go. And you telling your students, like I said before, tell them, this is something new that I'm trying, see how it goes. It might not work. If it works, fantastic. If not, back to the drawing board, we can kind of figure out exactly what we need to do. But really, if you have a great foundation in terms of actually having a really great relationship with any academical teacher, that's a great springboard. And then certainly from there, we can try different strategies and they can actually trust you enough to continue come back to you and be like, what, okay, Antoinette, I tried that. It didn't work out for me. Is there anything else? And then they feel that they can actually talk to you about these things. So I feel like it's a couple of steps, but a couple of strategies that you can actually ensure that you're engaging them and activating that learning. But it really starts with that great foundation about really finding out who they are and where they're coming from and being empathetic.
Tash?
Oh, everything that Antoinette said so well.
Yeah.
But one thing that you said, Antoinette, was to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So one of those examples, I suppose, is at the start of the pandemic, you mentioned we produced a podcast. David gave me lots of tips on how to do that, but how much fun was it teaching me, a complete novice, to use the technology and the software to produce a podcast. And from that, now when we talk about teachers asking students to do a podcast, because I've had that experience, I know, well, look, the first thing that you need to know is, how to turn the, how to turn the software on, how to get the audio into Audition, and these are the tips that I learnt because I jumped in and did it. So from that, I produced a series of very short instructional videos on how to use the software, so that if teachers do want to implement and ask their students to do podcasts, there is the instructional videos so that they can do it. Now, they are really for students who are not in television and film and audio production students. They're already all over that. They don't need this. But for other students who might be exploring different mediums, they would be appropriate for teachers just to be able to pop into their units. So that's an example of one of the other things we do is create resources for teachers to use.
And you also have, I know you've been talking about principles of teaching. What kind of principles are you referring to, Tash?
Yes, so we do use quite a few principles in our workshops, but several principles. So the multimedia principles that come out of the theory of cognitive load theory, and using the 12 multimedia principles for any online learning or workshops that we run, so that the intrinsic cognitive load is broken down for students, that it is there, but it can be broken down, that anything that is extraneous can be taken away, and anything that is important for student learning, that germane cognitive load can be increased and enhanced, so that students learn more. So that's the support. We don't tend to talk theory too much to teachers unless they're interested. The practical implementation of it is what we tend to go for. But also Universal Design for Learning as well has a series of principles around making learning available for all students and in all mediums, to engage on different levels for different students, so that everyone can engage in a way that's meaningful for them. So we do.
So, Antoinette, what sort of advice do you think it's important for faculty or school leadership to understand when it comes to supporting teachers and academics in digital literacy and technology?
Well, I guess personally, the biggest challenge that I've come across from teachers has never been that they have they do have difficulty with specific technologies, but it's just not having sufficient time to actually upskill themselves in using the technology. Yeah. And so time and time again, it's always about the academic workload model. I just don't have time to do it, Antoinette. It's not that I don't want to do it. I just don't literally have no time, because I have to research, I have to teach, I have all these other responsibilities. And I suppose from my standpoint, it's always a thing. I think we really need to relook, and I know this is a major challenge, not just for Swinburne University, but for many universities around the world. How much time, should you actually allocate to professional development of staff? But really, we do need to give them that space. That's what they need to actually ensure that they're able to keep abreast, because there's so many educational technologies out there. I mean, David's team does an incredible job of testing them out and figuring out this is the best tool. We create all these amazing workshops and training sessions, but if we don't have staff actually having the time to come to those workshops to actually learn how to do it, it kind of defeats the purpose. And so really we have to really look at that, unfortunately, because if we're not giving them sufficient time where they can actually come through to us and use this incredible expertise we have within the Learning Transformations Unit, it's kind of moot, because then we don't actually service anybody, we're not actually supporting anyone. So really, time would be great. I know that's a difficult one, but that's probably one of the biggest ones.
I'm curious, what do you think will happen with technology? How will technology change our way of working and the world of universities? Do you have any kind of ideas you want to share?
I think if we can get more affordable technology that can help the majority of our teaching staff. an example. One of the things that staff have a real issue with, which we're addressing at the moment, is how do I show my students an object or the whiteboard when I'm at home, right? I don't have a whiteboard at home. How do I show them? I want to show them what I'm writing. I'm working through a solution to a problem, right? And I use the whiteboard in face-to-face. It's no problem. They see me. They can see what I'm writing. They take down their notes. But how do I do that online? So we're looking at document cameras. You place them on the desk. They have a camera and it points down and they can write.
Yes.
Immediately you've broken a barrier that was in their head and physically, because how do you get a whiteboard? If your webcam is built into your laptop, how do you move your laptop around, see you and see the whiteboard and keep it in focus and make sure it's not a million miles away? So you need to find some sort of technology that, because the university at the moment is probably strapped for money because the pandemic has affected all institutions across the world. They're not necessarily flush with money, so they can't go and buy a document camera for every person. But if people have saved money during the pandemic, which many of them have done, and they're desperate to spend on holidays and buying things, a document camera, for example, something as simple as that, which I know sounds simple, but something like that opens up a massive world of opportunities.
Oh, you're talking about personally?
Personally.
For your way from home? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but also we will be providing more of those perhaps in the classroom as well, because not all of our classes are equipped with streaming technology, right? Technology that makes it live or hybrid. So we're looking at, a one-stop solution. We can say to any staff member that comes to us, we recommend this and we fully support this, and here's some training for it as well, and here's some resources. It's a one-stop shop. It's anything. Technology, people have got laptops now that have got touch screens. They want to write on it. They want to do their maths. They want to do their accounting. They want to do their psychology. They might be drawing figures. They want to be able to make that immediately visible to their students in real time. That barrier, I'm hopeful that as the technology becomes more, that the price comes down and then people can afford to buy it personally and enhance the whole student experience relies on the way they deliver from home as much as the way they deliver face to face.
Thank you. Ladies?
I'll answer it a little bit differently, and thank you, Liisa. At the start of this video today, you acknowledged the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. To make our resources more accessible, we auto-transcribe a lot of our videos, and the AI is not keeping up with different languages and different different words. And every time I've been speaking to our colleagues in Swinburne Commons who are transcribing and putting videos through auto-transcribe, and they spell Wurundjeri wrong every time. So we'll put this video through and it will probably spell that incorrectly, and that will need to be corrected because it's disrespectful to not have that correctly spelled for something that is so important to us to acknowledge. So I hope that technology can keep advancing and keep doing that, because it does do some amazing things. I was just yesterday playing with the immersive reader in our learning management system, which actually reads, creates an audio for everything that is written in Canvas if you set the settings right, and actually translates it. I was listening to it in Swedish just for fun last night, so just to get a bit of a handle on the language. I didn't understand what I was listening to, but there are some amazing things, but there is still more work to be done to make things accessible for a diverse student cohort.
We have a long way to go there.
Yeah.
Antoinette?
I guess to add to that, I'm a big advocate for mobile learning, because everyone is so busy, to be honest. I took the train coming in today and I was on my mobile like the whole time. There's just so much you can do on a mobile because it just ensures that people can actually do other things while they're learning, if possible. And I know that you absolutely love podcasts, given your podcast. But really, it's ensuring that whatever we do is also incorporating some kind of responsiveness when it comes to the mobile phone, and to ensure that it's always inclusive. I think we already do that as is. But I'm really, and this is something that my husband and I were talking about the other day, that, you know what, you don't even have to undertake some kind of certificate or qualification anymore. You can just go on YouTube and quickly learn something. Like just a short, really powerful video can just give you all the information you need. And just going back to the basics sometimes. Sometimes you feel like you have to do something complicated and use some sophisticated technology, but sometimes as simple as, you know what, what's the quickest, easiest way to access this? You know, if it's about making a short, 10-minute instructional video, popping that on YouTube, I can watch that at any point. I mean, I can also listen to a podcast as well, but just making that accessible in different modes is also very helpful, because we have far greater reach by doing that as well. So just rethinking what we're currently doing and actually utilizing the technology that students already have in their pockets, in their hands more often than not, and ensuring that whatever we are developing, be it a resource, be it a video, that is also touching students in different ways as well. And so just looking at apps that we have the Canvas app as well, and how can we actually be utilizing that to the best of its ability, as opposed to just thinking about only using the desktop version. So there are different ways of sort of utilizing the technologies we have. It's just really about looking at those.
Yes, and then of course, what about the negatives? A short response about the negatives of technology.
Well, I could start with that. For me, and exactly, it's actually, I'm going to do the polar opposite of the mobile phone, in the sense that people have become a little bit disrespectful sometimes. You will be sitting in a restaurant and everyone is on their mobile phones. It's quite sad. And just going back to our discussion earlier about the affordances of face-to-face, it's about connecting with people. You don't want to have these devices all the time in your hands. And we have this HyFlex project starting up, and I'm really curious and interested to see the kind of what will come out of that project, because you really do want to take on the affordances of face-to-face. You have students that are face-to-face. So how do you engage the students that are sitting in front of you versus students that are online? You don't want the students in front of you to also be now engaging through another medium as well, if you have them in front of you. These are all challenges we kind of have to work through in terms of strategies we can get around that. But it is disrupting this bond that we have as social human beings, and just to be present, because it's constantly having to go to some kind of technology and software and to engage in that way. But really we need to think about what is the best for face-to-face as well, and how can we bring that out? So even though we are kind of entrenched in all this technology, we still kind of need to look at the face-to-face element and say, these are the affordances of face-to-face. Let's not lose that all in the technology, but let's bring those out. And we have to be very creative and innovative in how we do that, particularly with HyFlex, because we're trying to actually cater to different modes. I don't have the answer, but that's something that we'll be investigating as part of this project. But I'm excited to see what comes out of that. But yes, it can be very disruptive to that kind of bonding and community building face-to-face.
So, and I get what you're saying. So it's really, I'm thinking about some of the negatives of technology, and I think I touched on them earlier, but I perhaps did not really talk very much on them, or and I'm talking about digital stress, and I'm also talking about the fatigue.
Okay.
And these are the kind of things that, it's absolutely amazing how many hours we spend in front of our smartphone.
Screen, yeah.
And screen.
Yeah.
I mean, please.
Yeah. So, and I think also, some of the challenges with technology is assuming that students know how to use all technology, that they've got access to all the technology, and even if they've got access, that they know how to use them, and also that as Antoinette said, if it's not implemented right, I think one of the things that I said in the podcast, I do find it most challenging is the short time that we have to help teachers, and if something hasn't worked, we don't have time to explore why a particular thing hasn't worked. So that would be my answer.
Thank you.
I agree with you. I think one of the things, we have a lot of digital burnout.
Yes, that's a good word.
You know, we have been bombarded by this technology constantly, and especially during the pandemic, because we can't get away from it. We need to connect with people, and the only way we can do it is through our technology. After a while, that becomes tiresome. I mean, and the reality is too, at the end of the day, you want to sit down, what do? If you want to de-stress, you watch television. I mean, it's another screen, even bigger. So, I mean, I guess that's a little bit different. You're doing that to switch off. Whereas when you're in front of this technology, you have to be switched on. Because you're engaging with people and they're expecting a response. And one of the things that I find with technology is that people expect more from you. They expect you to be available 24/7 because you have technology. And managing that expectation is a challenge. I don't see it as a problem. I see it more as a challenge.
Oh,
you know. It's like we're up for the challenge. How? And again, it comes back to what we were talking about before, communicating very clearly what our parameters are. If I'm going to be supporting you, we have drop-in sessions during the week. They're on these days, they're for this long. Simple.
That's it, yes.
You know then that you can confidently come to those sessions, engage with us one-to-one, and we will help you as best as we can. But outside those hours, please leave me alone.
Is there anything you want to bring up that is important to you that I have not mentioned, Antoinette?
I think we might have already mentioned this, but I mentioned that previously one of my first roles was a curriculum development practitioner, and it was focusing on supporting staff to develop a curriculum, but yes, they were the SME and we were just supporting them in developing that curricula. My next role was instructional designer, and I worked in a center, a distance education center, essentially what it was. We actually developed online course materials with the subject matter expert as well. And then I moved over here to Swinburne, where I was a learning designer, and obviously Tash has talked about sort of the different roles and responsibilities of a learning designer here. And although we have different terms for a learning designer, I mean, to be honest, it was very similar in the sense that the common denominator was I was actually designing some kind of student learning experience, be it face-to-face or online, and I was supporting a subject matter expert, whether it be a teacher, whatever term you might use it for. It's not so much about the name, learning designer or instructional designer or academic developer, educational designer. There's so many different terms to what we call a learning designer. At the end of the day, it's about what it is that you do and the value that you bring to the job. As long as, I don't want to say clients, but as long as the clients are actually clear about exactly what it is that you do and what you bring to them, I think that's what's important. So if we're clear on what a learning designer does within the context of Swinburne University of Technology, that's what matters. It's not about the name, really, it's not. It's really what value you bring to that specific role. And I'm very passionate about learning design, which is why I'm in here in this specific area. And I'm really passionate about teaching and helping people really just do so much more with what they currently have, and we bring that expertise to them. And so really it's just about getting our name out there, ensuring that clear about the services that we provide and how we go about doing that. But really it's about a collaboration, co-design of some kind of sort with our partners, which is pretty much our staff and teachers, in ensuring that we're creating impactful learning experiences for our students. So that's what it's about. That's the core of what the work that we do, and I hope that comes across.
I think that comes across really well.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much,
Sure.
Antoinette. Ida, do you want to add something, or?
I once again agree with everything that Antoinette has said, particularly that at the end of the day, it's for the students. So the context is everything. We work with teachers, but with in mind the students.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tash. David?
I think one thing that Antoinette touched on before was a term that we've coined here at Swinburne, which you might hear more often these days, is being failure friendly. Don't be afraid when something doesn't go right. As you said yourself, you think that it's your fault that something has gone wrong. That's not necessarily the case. It could be forces beyond your control. So I always think, be gentle to yourself. We provide a lot of what we would class as almost pastoral care. We're like psychologists. People come to us with problems. They want us to own their problem. We try and help them out as best as we can. And one of the things is that people are often very hard on themselves because they say, well, I should know this, or I should have done this. And it's like, well, you didn't. And that's okay, because now you know. So you've learnt. Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, practice where you can, try and do as much as you can to mitigate the failure, but just realise it's a part of life as much as it is a part of your teaching and a part of your work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so impressed. Thanks to our fabulous panel, Natasha, Antoinette, and David, for your participation on our discussion today, and especially to you, Swinburne University of Technology, and to you, David, for organizing this video recording, and to our viewers, wherever you are, speciellt i Sverige. Tack så mycket, och vi ses i Göteborg. Ta vara på er. Thank you, everyone. Tack.
Thank you.
Thank you.